Welcome back to the ARCA Zoomcast. I'm Casey Campbell. That is not Charlie Crawl. That is Mitchell Brewer, of course, from News from the Pits. I'm filling in for Charlie this week. Hi, Mitchell. How's it going?
It's going good. How's it going with you, Casey?
Doing well. So that was an interesting race Monday at DuQuoin. I know that last thing ARCA wants to do is postpone a race, but obviously I don't think they had really any choice in the matter. Obviously, in all to safety to have this race, and obviously it was shortened with rain in the area. Honestly, I can't believe they got this in.
No, and props to ARCA for moving it up an hour too. I know they got some flack about that on social media, but that ended up being the move that saved the day for that race because, like you said, it's a miracle that they just managed to get that race in there, especially since when it started raining, that track turned into a lake. And as you and I both know, you can't race cars in a lake. And good for ARCA to manage to get the schedule organized where they managed to get that race in, which is the most important thing.
Yeah, sounds good. So going into this, we're done with dirt tracks and all that stuff. You got the championship did tighten up a little bit, but really Nick Sanchez leads Daniel Dye by 10 points. Not the day Raja Karuth wanted. Now he's down 28 heading into Kansas next week. Kansas actually this coming week. So to have that, it's definitely going to be interesting to see where that championship kind of lands.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, Raja is going to need a couple of really good days. We've talked about all year about how this is going to be a close points battle, but now all of a sudden Nick Sanchez, he's starting to get a little bit of an edge there. And I think if he can continue to just be strong, it's going to be tough to stop him, but I don't think you can sleep on Daniel Dye or Raja yet. I don't think you can put a blanket on them, especially with the variety of tracks that we have coming up as well too.
Yeah, for sure. Only one big track left and 3 short tracks to end the season. So definitely going to be good and definitely going to maybe play into Daniel Dye's favor a little bit. We'll obviously talk Kansas in a little bit later, but I want to talk about Portland for a second. Jake Drew did Jake Drew things this season. Really, no one's been able to stop Sunrise and what they've been able to do this year. Jake Drew picks up another win at Portland, sweeps that race as he is now well on his way to an ARCA West championship.
Yeah, he ain't going to have to worry about last lap at Phoenix this year, and I think he's very appreciative of that fact. It's one of those things, Casey, where you and I have talked about this before, where it just seemed like Jake Drew, he was so consistent last year, and it really felt like when he wins, he's not going to stop winning, and that's pretty much been the case this season in the ARCA West Series. And that team, Sunrise, should be proud of a lot of different things this season because they have been very, very good, and Jake Drew obviously leading the charge there.
For sure. All right, let's talk about Kansas this weekend. 21 cars are in the field. It's definitely going to be another one of those races. And, you know, Corey Heim, this is his last start for Venturini Motorsports this season. You know, he wants to go out on top. And I think he also kind of wants a little redemption after everything. We all know what happened last year over there. I mean, last time we were at Kansas earlier this year. He's definitely going to be a threat to win. And also, I wouldn't count out Sammy Smith either.
No, and it's going to be interesting because, and correct me if I'm wrong, Casey, but I think Sammy Smith and Raja, they're the only 2 guys that are competing in both the Xfinity and ARCA race on Saturday. That's going to be interesting too to see how much of a factor, if it's either a beneficiary factor from getting more time on track, or if those guys, because that's a lot of laps to be logged around Kansas Speedway for Sammy Smith and Raja. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out this weekend too for those 2 guys.
Yeah, for sure. There's just a lot of things are going on this weekend. You know, you got a lot of other guys that are going to be in this field, like Cody Coughlin's going to be racing in this race. I know there's going to be some others, obviously the usual suspects we've been seeing. Parker Chase will be in the 15 this week. So there's that. So there's a lot of guys that are going to be there. Christian Rose will be in there, and then just some other guys. 21 cars. How do you think this second race at Kansas? This would have been this is obviously the race that was the championship race last year, but now it's just a normal points race.
It's tough, Casey, because we've seen it before at this Kansas race where you expect one thing and then something completely different happens here. And we've seen I use the term underfunded loosely. We've seen guys like Brett Holmes have really good runs here. And, those rev cars have been really strong at these big tracks. Obviously, Sammy Smith's going to be the guy that's going to be the one to beat, but I wouldn't sleep on those rev racing cars. And I think and like you said, Corey Hines out there to prove a point as well, too. I don't think this ARCA season has gone necessarily how he would have, like you mentioned, struggles at Kansas earlier this season, and then last weekend, everything that happened with Jesse Love. He's going to want to go out there and prove a point. I don't think this is just going to be a runaway race for anybody this weekend, but you never know. You never know what to expect with this track.
Nick Sanchez, by the way, has won the last two ARCA races at Kansas, so definitely he's going to be right for sure. And he won the last time ARCA was at a big track. Of course, that was back at Michigan. So that if he wins Kansas this weekend, that could be a big thing heading into the championship, and a little bit of a cushion heading in to the short tracks, but the rev cars haven't been as strong.
No, and I think that cushion's going to be absolutely needed because we saw this past weekend with Raja just how quick a day can go bad and really hurt you points wise. And these short tracks, anything can happen, especially if we get a bigger field count, or just we saw it a couple of weeks ago where slower traffic impacted the end of the race. And I'm not blaming slower traffic or anything on that. It's just one of those things that's really more of a variable at those smaller racetracks. And it's going to be one of those things where I think Nick Sanchez is really going to want to just pile on as many points as he possibly can and just pray that he doesn't get involved in any accidents, because that's I think, honestly, I would say that's almost as big of a concern as beating Daniel Dye and Raja each and every week.
For sure. And I know that Bristol will probably have a huge car count. Especially that's also where the East Championship is going to be. They'll also crown that. I believe Sammy Smith's got a pretty healthy lead on Taylor Gray. So that's going to be big. And, you got Bristol, you got Salem, that's a throwback race. And then Toledo as the championship race. I'll be at that. I've heard there's going to be a pretty massive car count in that race. So that's definitely going to be exciting, these last four races down the road. All right, that's going to do it for this week's show. Charlie should be back next week. If not, you'll see this face again. But anyway, enjoy Kansas this week, 7 p.m. Eastern start on MAV TV following the Xfinity race. Should be a good one. Tune in.